Howdy folks, happy Thursday. Welcome to CIS 2454. We're going to do a little intro for the course today, go over the syllabus, and then you got some other videos here for week one. So again, web systems development, CIS 2454. We do this class both in PHP and in Java or JSP. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite classes to teach here because building websites that work with databases is really what almost all web applications do nowadays. So it's a great skill to at least something be exposed to get a better appreciation for how they work. This is me. Hi, I'm Eric Janeski. Nice to meet you. This is my OCC email address. This is my cell phone. I do have a desk phone at OCC, but please don't use it. Just use my cell phone. It's way easier, and I will get the message much sooner if you call me. You can also text me if you like texting. Texting is fantastic. I'm a pretty solid millennial, so my phone's always in my pocket, and you can usually respond pretty quick. I do have some office hours, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday evenings. I found most folks who are taking online classes are usually busy during the day. You might have other evening classes, something going on. So I'm up really late at night. If you're up really late at night, great. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, we can meet up Tuesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon as well. You can schedule via my Calendly link here, which is a fantastic site. You just come here, find a day, one left in August, but if you go look at September, pick one of the days. It says, hey, these times are available. You pick that time and say, hey, you want to book this appointment? Give me your name, your email address, and whatever else you want to do, and we can meet over Zoom. So they're set for 15-minute appointments. Usually 15 minutes is great. If we need to talk longer, maybe you can book 2 in a row. But most of the time, 15 is pretty good because I've got 150 students I've got to meet with throughout the week if anyone wants to. So I don't talk to all 150 of you every week, thankfully. But I want to make sure we've got enough appointments available for folks, so we can do that. And Zoom's pretty good for that. I also have Discord if you like meeting over Discord, but sometimes the screen sharing is not as good there, so Zoom's probably a pretty good option there. I assume you folks are probably familiar with Zoom by now, so we'll see. There's only one section of this class, O1531. It is online asynchronous. There's no set meeting times, so you do it at your own pace, with the due dates, right? So each week we'll have stuff assigned. We do the end of the week or the next week, and we just keep going at that pace here. We meet on D2L, or the content's all on D2L. This is a copy paste from the catalog. Hopefully nothing interesting there, and you probably read this before you registered for the class. For a prereq, you had to have done some Java programming, either 1500 or 2151, so that you've done some programming before and you've got some Java experience for the Java portion. You don't need any PHP experience. We're going to start from scratch there. In terms of general education outcomes, this is big on critical thinking. In any programming class, learning how to apply the things that we've learned to a task and solving that task is really important, right? You've probably heard before, programming is a very creative process. It's, technical in that you have to do things the right way and follow the right syntax so your code compiles and runs. But the hard part of programming is figuring out how to take a big problem and break it down into smaller and smaller and smaller problems so we can make the computer actually do. Because computers are really dumb. Right? They'll do exactly what we tell them to, and they're happy to do the wrong thing if we tell it to do the wrong thing. So some common course outcomes. Most of these won't make any sense until we get to the topics later, so we'll come back to them as we go. We have 2 textbooks, one for PHP and MySQL, and another one for Java servlets and JSP. This one is a little old, but it's not the worst thing in the world, and it's cheap that way. Murroc's pretty good, and they don't come out with a new book every year just to make a bunch of money. So I tend to like their books. They got some pretty good examples. They're generally pretty solid. So we've got those ones there for you. You can order from the bookstore or your favorite online bookstore or wherever you want to find them. It's fantastic. And then supplemental materials. We use a lot of tools for this class. So we use GitHub. So you'll need a GitHub account. You can use whatever username you want because it's a public service. Right? Your username will be public. So whatever handle you want is fine. I'll know it's you because you'll turn it into D2L. I prefer the GitHub desktop client for our Git tools, and we'll get into all of that. Don't worry about it. This is how we can get our code onto the github.com cloud so that you can see it and I can see it. I really, really, really dislike when people email me code or put code in D2L because it's a terrible way to share code. Right? It's awful and painful and takes lots of extra steps, where GitHub is designed for code collaboration. This is literally an enterprise tool that organizations pay to use. You can use it for free for open source stuff and for educational use. So it's designed for people to look at code, and it's fantastic. Discord for office hours. This is my personal Discord server that I run for my students. Hop in there. You got to go to the roles channel, or the rules channel first, accept the rules for the server, and then go to the roles channel, pick the right class that you want to have the channels for. You're welcome to pick more if you want to see what's going on, but that way it kind of sort of limits what you're being notified for in Discord. When we get to the Java side of things, we're going to use NetBeans because it does PHP and JSP for us. There are better tools, but you have to get a license for them, and it's a pain to do that. And sure, this is not bad. It's just not fancy. So we'll do this. You'll need the OpenJDK to install NetBeans if you haven't installed Java before. I've got a video on installing the tools. Don't sweat it. If you get stuck, you're going to actually work with a partner this week, or contact me. I can definitely help you out. And then XAMPP is a kind of a bundled tool for us. It has all the other things we're going to need. It has our Apache web server. It has that'll run PHP for us. It has MySQL, and it has a Tomcat server for when we get to the Java side of things. It's got 2 other things that we don't even need, so that's fine. And we'll go over that in the installing the tools video. Now, if you don't want to do all of that, you can also just use the virtual desktop that OCC has available to you. So you do need to download the client. The web version access is not as good. It's a little clunky, so they recommend installing the full client version, whether or not you're Windows or Mac. That works out pretty well. Now, the problem with the virtual desktop is nothing stays. So when you log off, or if you walk away for 30 minutes, all your stuff goes away. Which, if we're using Git and GitHub, we can just synchronize all of our stuff to the cloud. It takes like 3 extra clicks to go re-download it the next time we log in. It's not bad at all, and it's a good habit to get into to make sure our stuff is out in the cloud. Because once it's out on the github.com cloud, it's really, really, really hard to lose it, because this is how they make their money, hosting content for paying customers. And if you lose people's code, they're probably not going to want to pay you a lot of money, or any money, right? All right, so those are the tools we're going to use. We'll get into installing them this week. Work with a partner. Contact me if you have questions. And so some course-specific policies or assessment policies and procedures. I'm a very big stickler on plagiarism and cheating. And I think it's in all of our best interests that cheaters don't get degrees. So the reason why that is because if you cheat your way through school, you probably didn't learn the stuff. So when you go get a job and you suck at your job because you don't know how to do any of it, you're going to get fired. And then the employer will say, hey, OCC does a terrible job teaching people. We shouldn't hire other OCC graduates. So really it devalues the degree for everyone else who really did the work and can, they have the skills and can do the things they need to do for that job. So cheaters should not get degrees. The most I can do is in the purview of my class, because that's what I have, what I have control over as a faculty member. So if you engage in academic dishonesty, you will fail the class. There is no try again. There is no 0 on the assignment. There is nothing. You will just fail the class immediately. So please don't cheat. Now, that being said, if you're not sure, just ask me. I know I sound like a big jerk right now, but I'm generally a reasonable person and kind of nice. So ask me. Right? I understand that developers get paid lots of money to find code online and use it and incorporate it into their solutions. That's great. I'm not expecting you to do every little tiny thing from scratch here. You can use your resources, but this is academia. We need to cite our sources. So most of the time we run into plagiarism issues where people use someone else's work and they don't cite their source. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. I do have one caveat though. Chegg.com and similar sites are not allowed. Chegg is the worst website out there. I hope they go out of business because they are terrible, awful people. They have the ability to keep my exam questions and projects from getting on their site, but they say they'll only do it for 24 hours. And after that, F you, Eric, and they're going to post it anyway because that's how they make their money. They say, hey, students, you can pay us and we'll have our tutor come and help you, which means solve all of your projects for you. And they say, oh no, please don't actually give us your real homework. We'll help you with practice things. But they know all the time that they actually do real homework for people. And for me to get it taken down off their website, I have to go bother my dean and get a letter that I have to send to them and go through this whole process. And it just irritates me and it irritates my dean and it's awful. Just don't do it. Okay, stay off of Chegg. They're horrible, terrible people. They're getting sued, but by Pearson, who I also hate because Pearson price gouges everyone in academia. And, maybe it's good if they just both lose a bunch of money and the lawyers win. We'll see. So don't post anything there. It's actually a violation of our policies as well to share academic material without permission, and you can't cite answers posted there. Just stay off it. Right? That being said, tools like ChatGPT are phenomenal. This is a great way for developers to get faster. Now, the problem with ChatGPT is that if you don't understand how the code works, or if you don't understand what's happening behind the scenes, you have no ability to know if it gave you a good answer or not. because ChatGPT makes crap up all the time. It is a prose machine. Its job is to imitate things it's seen and spit it out with confidence. So it will tell you, hey, this is the right thing, and it could be completely wrong. Now, a lot of times it's good and pretty close, but you might need to fix things. You might need to tweak things. You might need to take part of it and then add some other stuff here. And that being said, you can't just turn in the solution from ChatGPT. Right? This is like an English paper. So when you write an English paper, you can't turn in one giant quotation. Right? You can go support your idea with your research paper. You go find other research and you can quote it or you can paraphrase it and cite your source, but you're adding original effort to it. Right? The bulk of the work, at least 50%, right? The bulk of the work needs to be your original effort here. You don't turn it in an English paper that more than half full of quotes. Right? That's not going to fly. So same thing here, right? You can use it. Hey, I need help with this particular thing. Sure, that's great. ChatGPT is actually really good at giving practice problems. It can come up with practice problems very easily for things you can go try. You say, hey, I want more practice of this, or this part doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Help me explain this sort of thing, and you can give it code, and it generally will explain it. It's not perfect, again, but it's generally pretty good. So it's a great tool, and it's going to make developers faster, but you still need to understand how things work. It's not a complete end-to-end solution. You still need the skills to be able to figure out if this thing's going to work or not. Okay. And then college policy, right? This is a copy paste from the OCC handbook. So this idea of plagiarism, right? Giving someone else's ideas, data, words, images, or other products without giving credit to the originator, or acquisition of the tests or academic material, or distribution of the same. This is where people get in trouble on Chegg. If you post academic material on Chegg, you're distributing it without permission. You do not have permission to do that. That is academic dishonesty, and you'll fail the class. So just do us all a favor. Don't do it. Right? Ideally, you're taking this class because you want to learn something, and I get the reality, like having a piece of paper is useful for getting jobs, that sort of thing. But hopefully, we've done a good job of putting together a curriculum that exposes you to lots of tools and techniques and languages and things like that to get you some good experience, so you'll be useful is the wrong word there, but you'll be effective in the industry when you go out and get a job. All right, the code of conduct. This is copy paste. And it really doesn't apply mostly for online classes, like being on time and keeping quarters quiet. So, sure. But yeah. All right, what most people care about, how you get your grade. So some people are very particular and really want an A. Fantastic. That's great. Getting a good GPA is useful if you want to transfer on and do those sorts of things. That's great. So this is how you'll get it. Now, I use a weighted system. So the labs make up 10% of your overall score. So if a lab is worth 10 points and a project is worth 10 points, they're not the same overall weight in your final score here, because labs only make up 10%, where the project makes up 30%. So the points matter in the category there, and that's sort of how that works. So the labs, 10%, these are essentially participation points, right? The lab is your chance to practice. If this were an in-person class, I would talk for a while and say, okay, your turn to try something. And I could walk around the room and see how everyone's doing. You could show me it, and then you could walk out, that sort of thing. So that's what labs are like. They're practice. I am happy to walk you through the lab if it doesn't make sense. Right? The idea is, from the materials we've read, the lecture I do, the videos, and then reading the book. You're supposed to read the textbook, in case you didn't know that. You should be able to solve the labs easily. Right? Ideally, hour, 2 hours max for labs. They're just exercises. They're a chance to practice small pieces here. The projects are the big things, and that's why they make up 30% of your score. This is, let's take one of the things we learned and do something bigger with it. And you're going to get less help on the projects. I'll still help you. I'm happy to point you in the right direction when you get stuck. My general rule of thumb is you want to spend a good half hour to an hour banging your head against the wall. Is not really the right term, but trying things. And being a little frustrated is okay. That's part of the learning process. Go out and try things and see what works for you and what doesn't work. After about an hour or so, it's really not very productive. You start getting more frustrated. You get frustrated at the program. You get frustrated at the code. You get frustrated at the assignment. You get frustrated at me. It is not good for anybody. And honestly, most of the time it takes me 5 minutes or less to get you unstuck and point you in the right direction. And then you just feel so much better because you can actually do these things, which is great. So turns out having 16 years experience doing some coding stuff, you'll learn to solve problems quicker just because you've seen it before. That's what comes with experience. So don't feel bad if I look at it and be like, oh yeah, you just have to fix this one line and then everything's better. That's okay. You'll get there eventually, right? This is all new for you, and that's okay. Everyone's at a different level. And we also have quizzes. So Every week we'll have a chapter quiz over the materials covered. Comes from the lecture and the textbook itself. I actually use the quiz bank questions, so mostly out of the textbook. Occasionally I might add a question or two from lecture stuff, but I try and cover the same material. I like to use different examples when I cover the material so that you see me doing it one way and you can get the textbook doing it another way. You could do a lab exercise for a third way of practicing this, and then you do a project for a fourth way, and maybe you talk to a neighbor for a fifth way, or maybe you go look online for at some point the repetition here is going to help it sink in. If you can just listen to me say something and watch me code it and you've got it like that, well, that's amazing. Most people don't learn that way. Right? Most people learn with repetition. That's sort of how our brains work. You have to reinforce these things. So the quizzes are open book, open notes, untimed, except for the due date. So open it, read the questions, and then go read the textbook. And then you can start taking notes. Okay, here, I found an answer. Okay, cool, I found an answer. Okay, cool, I found an answer. You can do like Control F find on if you get an electronic copy of the book. That sort of defeats the purpose. So the reason why there's quizzes here is to give you an incentive to read the book. But honestly, that's what it is. Like, I have quizzes so that people open the textbook and hopefully do some reading. Right? Now, you don't have to memorize anything. I don't care if you can memorize things. I care if you can write working code. So no one in any job I've ever had has told me I have to do these things from memory, because that would be handicapping me. They say, go use all the resources available and solve this problem for me, please. Right? But that's how the world works. So I don't expect you to memorize things. I expect you to be able to go and find the answers. Right? You have the resources available. It's all out of the textbook and the lectures. So you should be able to find all the answers and get 100% on every quiz, which is great. So sort of like participation points, right? Between the labs and the quizzes, you should be able to get 20% of your grade, knock it out just for trying. Right? Which is cool. Like, I'm good with that. That's putting in the effort. All right, we have one exam. It is the midterm exam. It is also untimed, open book, open notes, open internet. Not open neighbor. You can't work with another person on this, but you can use your resources online. Same rules with ChatGPT. You can't just give it the problem and give me the answer and say, hey, look, here's my answer, one big quotation. It just doesn't work like that, right? And hopefully that makes sense that you can't do that, right? English paper rules. But it's low stress. I don't like stressful exams. I don't care if you can memorize things. So it'll be half quiz questions and 3 coding questions. So it's designed so that if I wanted you to sit and take it in a class period, you could do that. I usually try and assume it would take 2 hours or less. So if you think about 30 quiz style questions, 30 quiz questions, right? That would take you maybe 2 minutes each or so. So that's an hour worth of quiz questions or so. And then the 3 coding questions, if it takes you 20 minutes per coding question, that's 2 hours total. And then I say, well, just in case, maybe it takes you twice as long. So that's 4 hours total. So it's designed to be able to be taken in a single sitting, but you don't have to do that. You can open it, start it, come back to it. As long as you get in there by the due date, it's great. Again, I don't think the artificial time pressure is useful. Now, at some point you do have deadlines in the industry. You can't just work forever on something, but it's not, most of the time it's not, hey, do this in the next hour, right? Or do this in an hour without getting up, and that sort of thing. So whatever. And then the final project is actually the bulk of your score. You cannot pass the class without the final project. That's intentional. So the final project makes up 40% of your overall score, and I'll give you all the different pieces, the things you need to turn in, checkpoints with me, and things like that. And you will present the final project. I'm going to try and have a couple time slots so you can see other people's projects, because it really is a lot of fun to see what other people designed. But I'll have morning slots, I'll have afternoon slots, I'll have evening slots. I might even do some weekend slots. So at some point, you'll actually meet with me live and present it. Right? Hopefully as a group. If it doesn't work with the group slots, that's okay. We'll make it work and we'll figure something out. But presenting the project is not optional. If you don't present it, you don't get any points. This, honestly, it's my chance to see that you can describe and tell me about what you did, that you actually did the work and understand it. So I'm rather fond of the project we do. I've been using it for a while now because I think it has lots of pieces that are really interesting, and it gives you something you can talk about when you go into an interview. Not really a capstone project, but like, hey, here's a big project I did, and there's a lot of cool pieces you can talk about. So we basically build a clone of Twitter, or X now, I guess, sure. A basic version, right? We can go make posts, you can follow people, you can find people, you can do images and these sorts of things. So it takes a lot of web skills, takes some database stuff. I'll help you with all the database stuff because there wasn't a prereq for taking the database class, which is a little weird, but sure. I'll help you get the database set up. And then it's just up to you to go and start working all the different pages. There's a lot of moving pieces, and it's actually pretty interesting and a lot of fun. Now, I know there are solutions out there that are like really good clones of Twitter. If you give me a really good clone of Twitter, let's just be honest, I know you didn't do it, right? No, none of my students have ever done a good clone of Twitter where it's like matches all the features. That's just not practical, and you don't want to spend that much time on it, right? This is just a final project here. Ideally, this one takes somewhere around like 20 to 40 hours, I'd want to say. Maybe up to 60, because we've got the last month of class to work on it. So if you're doing 5 hours a week, or 5 to 10 hours a week for 4 weeks, right? That's 20 to 40 or so, right? And maybe you put a little more time in or so, maybe not. So we'll see how that goes. So that'll total up to your 100%. We're getting there. I can assign WS marks if you'd like. The only restriction on that is that you have not presented your final project. It's like a withdrawal grade where you can go in and withdraw yourself, but at some point the college says you can't withdraw yourself, but I can give you a WS withdraw at any point in time as long as you don't turn in the final exam or present the final project. It's a weird thing, and I wish they would just let you withdraw yourself as well, like up to the very last day, because that would save me a lot of headache. But if it gets down to it and you'd like to withdraw, I'm happy to do that for you. You just need to ask. For letter grades, this should be a pretty standard scale now across the classes, I think. I got this out of the template. Hopefully you'll be pretty consistent everywhere. A couple people might have some different D ranges here. There was some discussion around changing these, and I didn't like that the number didn't match 73 and 63 and 83, and I like when things match, so I kept them matching. For N grades, if you don't turn in gradable work by the 15% mark, which is usually like week 3, you might get an N grade and get dropped from the class. So I'll be sending you an email. Make sure you check your student email address. That's super important because that's how we communicate with you, by your student email address. I'll let you know. So at the end of this week, there's a syllabus quiz. The syllabus quiz is graded. So at the end of this week, you can have something you can turn in for points, and then you won't have to worry about this at all. Okay? You folks are great. I don't take things late. So for the projects that we're going to get to, I usually post the solutions to them. So once I posted the solution, I can't take it late. I think that makes sense. Labs will have a hard cutoff. I used to keep them open, and then someone would like do the lab 7 weeks later, and it's just not useful at that point. So the labs do have a hard cutoff. Ideally, you do the lab in the week. I know that's hard for people and the way scheduling works because we start on a Thursday, we end on a Thursday. Like, you might not get everything done. So the full points for the lab, you can get full points if you get your first post in by the following Thursday, 8 a.m. or 7:59 a.m. Right? Full points for that. And then you need to have a reply in by the end of the next week. Right? Ideally, you do your post and your reply in the first week, but you can still get full points if the first post is in the first week and you reply within the second week. If you do your first post after the 1 week deadline, you can get half points for that. And then you can still make your reply. So you want to keep up, right? It's an incentive for you to keep up. And again, it's mostly participation. Like, you can't just post 3 words, but if you give it a solid effort, you can have the points, right? A solid effort is not 1 line, right? That sort of thing. So, and it's good practice. So the idea with these, again, is if you're sitting in class, you can like sit next to somebody and you can both do the assignment together almost, or like you try it and they try it and we're going to see what each other did. So we're going to be posting code in the discussion forums. I don't like it, but I don't have a great way for you to share code easily. We could all have GitHub repositories, but then like it's a lot of links to click, and I think this is okay. We're not posting big things. It's really small, so it'll fit in the discussion board page without too much trouble. But you'll post your code so everyone can see how everyone else solved it, which is kind of fun because everyone kind of takes a different approach. Other standard policies, these should be the same everywhere for FERPA. I don't tell anyone anything. I say go look at D2L, the Americans with Disabilities Act. Please contact the Access Office. They will send me the paperwork, and I'll be happy to work with you on reasonable accommodations. Most of the time, people have accommodations for like extra time on tests, which all of the quizzes and exams are open book, open notes, untimed except for the due date. So there's nothing for me to do generally. But please, I'm happy to have that conversation with you once I get the paperwork from the Access Office. Just let me know. All right. Our Academic Support Center is phenomenal. This is my favorite thing about OCC. They have free tutoring, or free is maybe the wrong word here. It's no additional charge tutoring because it's paid for with your tuition and tax dollars, right? But you can schedule an appointment here. They're getting this Penji thing up and running by September 5th. I'm very excited. And we've got a couple CIS tutors here who can tutor for $24.54. Oh, goodness. Including Rika and Mike, who's awesome, and Jordan, $24.54, and Andre, Andre, $24.54. So I've had Andre, I've had Jordan, and I've had Michael as students. Rika's been a tutor longer than I've been teaching here, so I've not had her as a student, but I've had lots of people use her as a tutor, and I always have nice things to say about her. She's fantastic. So Dustin, I don't recall, but I don't think he's taken $24.54, so it doesn't matter. So that's okay. Right, so take advantage of this. They're free or no additional charge, right? We've got some decent time frames for the different people. Different appointments are available, right? Even into the evenings on Friday, right? Jordan's got some evening hours, so check it out. It's really cool. That's one of my favorite things that we do at OCC is we have this Academic Sports Center. And then this is not your first semester, probably not even your second semester here. They do have other sorts of cool seminars, which are really useful for study skills and college skills and those sorts of things. But if you've been around, you probably know them, but take a look and see. They've got some really cool ones here, or these independent ones on all sorts of cool things. So take a look at those later. All right, there's a new student technical help desk. You can check out the link here. They can help with anything tech related. If it's an issue with the software that we use on the virtual desktop, we've got a different support for that. I can send you the links for that, but I think it's in the virtual desktop link here. Up above. I'll make sure I find it for you. So our CIS Parapros do the support for our software on the virtual desktops. The student technical help desk is all sorts of other things, which is fun. For D2L technical support, like the website's not loading or giving you error messages, you can call them. If it's content related, that's me, right? Accessibility standards, technical skills, the technology appropriate use regulations. We all said yes to this at some point. I forget when we got asked. But don't do dumb or illegal things with college resources or you'll lose access to them. It's really hard to pass computer classes if you're not allowed to use the computers. Right? Just don't do that, please. For netiquette, great habit. You want to be polite. Good tips here. I am not formal. I don't care if you have good grammar or bad grammar, but it's good to practice that good grammar because you will be judged on it in the industry. For better or for worse, people get judged on their grammar. And if you don't yeah, it's kind of true. But if you don't sound like what people expect professionals to sound like, you're going to be judged on it. I said look, which is likely true as well, but again, there's all sorts of other issues there because we're just in a bit of a mess. But generally, I'd like to imagine that the software industry is a little better at that than some other industries. But again, I don't have good hard data for you on that. For public safety, check out the public safety's website. If you're async online, I don't think there's much that they do. Okay. And then our libraries. We've got awesome access to things at the libraries. One of the coolest things we have in our databases here, I should not have clicked it that way. That's okay, what is it here? I think it's the I section. Yeah, IT Pro Books 24/7. So this site here gives you access, once you log in here, to all sorts of cool technical books on lots and lots and lots and lots of topics. Like anything you can think of here, we've got topics on it, which is super cool. So if you wanted to look up PHP, just do a search here. You've got, hey, look at that. PHP and MySQL Easy Steps, 4th edition, 2nd edition, right? All sorts of fun things. MySQL and Apache Server. Here's a web program with PHP and MySQL practical guide. PHP 20 lessons to be successful. Yeah, go nuts, right? So these are all free. They're no additional charge, right? Our library pays for it by your tuition and tax dollars. But tons of cool things you can take advantage of if you're looking for extra information or other ideas or things like that. So great resource out there as well. Our libraries are fantastic. All right, we are almost there. You folks are doing great. Let's see. Okay, so generally, if you've read my Rate My Professor reviews, I'm bad at grading. I apologize. Part of that is some expectations as well. What I've been trying to do and experiment with is this idea of ungrading. I'll have to post some links and send you some more information here. But really the idea is I'll give you a rubric. I'll say, here's the assignment and here's your rubric. You get 5 points if you do this thing. You get 5 points if you do this thing. You get 5 points if you do this thing. Right? If it doesn't do it, you don't get the points. If it sort of does it, you can get partial points. And I'll ask you to assess yourself. So I give you the assignment, I say, here's how you get your points, and I'll say, okay, grade yourself. Tell me how you did. And I'll show you can add some screenshots. It's really cool, especially when we use GitHub. It's a fantastic tool for it. So you'll do that. And most of the time, I just accept it because you folks are actually pretty good at that. If I give you the rubric and I say it has to do these things, your folks are pretty good at that sort of thing. So the idea is that it gives you that chance to reflect and look at, did it do the things it needed to do? Right. And now sometimes people think they got all the things done, but they didn't really understand the assignment. And if you don't really understand it, you've got to ask me, right? You've got to reach out because other people probably have the exact same question as you. You're doing yourself a favor. You're doing your friends in the class a favor by asking questions. So post in the forum. I actually don't like the forum much. Or go to Discord and ask in the Discord channel. That's my favorite spot because it's easy for everyone to see and it's a modern tool you can have on your phone, that sort of thing. Then ask questions. So if you do the wrong thing because you didn't understand it right, it's hard to get the points sometimes. But generally, if you understand what you're trying to do and you do it, it's fantastic here. So I usually just take them. So the self-assessment scores, I guess I would need to officially post them, and that's where I usually fail. It's not funny. I'm sorry. So I'll be working on this. Usually within a week of the due date is my goal to get them actually in the D2L gradebook, so you can see them there. In terms of communications, 24 hours or less, basically all the time. If I'm going to go somewhere, I'll let you know that I'm probably not going to be available for a period of time. But like any good millennial, I'm addicted to my phone. It's always in my pocket. If I don't get back to you within 24 hours, please reach out again. You're not bothering me. You're not pestering me. My little guy likes to watch YouTube Kids on my phone, and he might have swiped away the notification or archived the email or whatever it was here, and I just totally missed it. So please reach out again. We don't want to miss your communications. I try not to, and usually I get back to you really quick. All right, so our weeks start each Thursday at 8 a.m. and the next Thursday at 7:59 a.m. Should work out pretty well. And we go mostly a chapter. Sometimes we have a couple chapters a week as we go. So we're going to start with PHP. So this is the course introduction, tools overview, and the PHP appendix. I don't know why I have an extra line here. That's weird. And then next week we get into chapters 1 and 2 and have our first project. So the projects are every other week. So you've got 2 weeks to work on them. Please start early and ask questions early. If you wait until the Wednesday before it's due to ask me questions, it's not going to go well. Right? We've got 2 weeks for a reason. You don't have to get it done the very first day, but at least get started on it and think about it and let me know if you have questions. So 1 and 2, and then chapter 3 is all about databases. So if you've not taken a database class before, this is really interesting and fun. If you've taken the database class before, it's kind of boring. My apologies, but because there was not a prereq for it, I have to make sure everyone has at least a level set bit of information on databases. And then we look at how to use code with databases. It's fantastic. So this is all about MySQL. We don't even touch PHP this week. Then we come back to PHP and look at how we use databases with PHP, and we get project 1. And then we look at some more things in PHP. We get project 2. We'll break for the midterm. And then we'll come back and we'll switch gears to Java and JSP. So we'll do project 3. So project 0, 1, and 2 are all PHP. Project 3 is a JSP project. And then the final project is your choice. You can use PHP if you want. You can use JSP if you want. Either will do the job, really. They will. It's just pretty cool. And then we'll finish up with the JSP topics here. You'd need sessions and cookies to manage login stuff, but you can do the other pieces without the login. Like if you want to get started on it, we'll look at sessions and authentication in PHP as well, back up here. So sort of works the same. Thanksgiving break, we're just off that whole week. No plans to do anything there. And then the last little bit is some special topics, DOM, AJAX, and frameworks. I don't do much with these because we really don't want to teach you frameworks because they change all the time. We want to teach you the basics, and then the frameworks kind of do the magic to save you time so you don't have to do all the basics yourself. But if you don't know how the basics work, and then the magic doesn't do what you expect it to do, it's really hard to fix it or even understand what's happening. So we stick to the basics. The frameworks are great to look at once you understand the basics. AJAX is really fun. It's asynchronous JavaScript calls. We do a little bit there, and we work with images and make them pop up without having to reload pages. A lot of fun. And that's related to DOM manipulation, just some basic stuff there. If you've taken the web classes, hopefully that makes sense. Again, there's no prereq, which is a little weird, but we can usually get by just copy pasting the examples, right? And then these last 12, 14, it doesn't have to be exactly this day, sometime this week, and up through like that Friday even, we can do the final project presentation. So I'll try and get a couple slots out there that multiple people can join. We'll probably aim for like 1 hour slots and maybe get 4 people to present each hour or so. 10 minutes to present at most usually, but then there's time switching around and questions and whatnot. So you'll just go through your website. You'll show me that it does A, B, C, D, and E, and G, and F, and I messed up those letters. It's getting late. And then we might have a couple questions about your code as we talk through it. Okay. If it needs to change, I'll let you know. That's about it for the class. So we're looking at the rest of your fall already. Sorry to make it go by so quick, but I'm looking forward to it. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. I'm happy to help. Reach out whichever way you prefer, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.